my Thailand. So here we're going to answer the question, can fasting keep the holiday pounds off? So this is an important question as we approach the holidays, actually past the Thanksgiving holiday. Christmas Eve is today here, Christmas Day is tomorrow, and then we have this stretch until New Year's, right? So we have some really interesting data here that shows what is actually happening and giving us some potential, some possibilities for actually losing weight and doing it in what I would say is a simple, healthy, and effective way. So that's my main focus. I help a lot of people with this, with weight loss, and I've used fasting as a main tool for some of my courses and many of my clients. So let's dive right in. So let's look at this study under review. So it says here that the average adult gains between 0.5 to 1 kilograms per year. So this would be like 1 to 2 pounds per year. And this over time accumulates and leads to obesity over many years. So there's been some research to suggest that the majority of this weight gain occurs during the traditional holiday season between the months of November and December. So here we are at the end of it, and hopefully we can do some course correction at the end, and we can see what's going on. So let's look at this graph. So we can see that this blue line is the United States, and the middle of this graph is actually the new year. So we can see leading up to the new year from down all the way down here where people have actually lost weight over the year on average. We go up and we have this spike. And actually, I would think from just a purely historical, ancestral, biological perspective, this is kind of normal, although much more pronounced with the amount we eat these days. So I think it's normal to lose a bit of weight in the summer months and then to gain weight in the winter months. Because we're less sedentary, we're less active. But then again, it depends how much food you have available, right? So we can think back to thousands of years when perhaps during the wintertime, it could have been hard to get food. So that could be the case as well, where we wouldn't see such a big spike. So we're seeing here, yeah, just like it says, like a huge spike just before, actually just at the new year, where people are gaining the most amount of weight in the United States. So up to almost like 2 pounds, right? So that's a lot, right, on average. So some people are gaining a lot more than that. Some people are actually losing weight. So keep that in mind that this is just an average. So what's the solution? So a potential solution of weight gain during the holiday period is the use of intermittent energy restriction, which is defined as short periods of eating significantly below energy requirements, interspersed with regular eating periods. So what does this mean? So this is science speak for intermittent fasting. So sometimes you restrict your window of eating, and other times you expand it and you eat more. And so one popular implementation of this is the 5-2 diet. And this is actually what they used in this study. So this is important to consider, is that they actually didn't do any a strict amount of fasting. So 2 days out of the week, they quote unquote fasted, right? And what this meant was eating about 500 calories on those 2 days, right? Which, to me, it doesn't really say if they were restricting the window, what they were eating. So there are a lot of questions around this. So this is in stark contrast, I think, to what most people do or think of for intermittent fasting. So a lot of people I know of fall into a 16-8 rhythm, where they're fasting for 16 hours and eating within an 8-hour time period, an 8-hour window, if you will. So this is quite a bit different. So we have to take this into account with this study, and let's take a look at the results. So they have these graphs here, but we'll just dive right down to the results. So this pilot study, which was a single center parallel group, randomized and controlled. So that sounds pretty fancy, right? Pretty technical. So they showed that this 5-2 fasting nutrition intervention over the holidays may lead to very minor reductions in weight, but these results were not significantly better than the control groups. So, and there's some other interesting things in here. The study was likely underpowered and skewed by self-selection bias, which happens a lot in these studies, right? And to really point that out more clearly is that the study showed no weight gain among the control group. So we just learned that everybody gains a lot of weight, right? On average, people gain almost 1 kilo, almost 2 pounds of weight during this time. But for some reason, the control group didn't gain weight. So that's a big red flag. And this is what happens when people are studied, they know they're studied, they change their habits, right? So, so it's interesting. Any kind of intervention or study, this is why pretty much all diets, quote unquote, work. They work while people are doing them because they know that they have to make changes, right? So, and when we see IER here, it basically just means intermittent fasting. So what other forms of intermittent fasting are there? So I talked about this. This is specifically 5-5-2, where you're just eating normally for 5 days and fasting. We're actually just doing 500 calories or less, not really fasting, for 2 days out of the week. So like I said, there are different approaches to this. Another one that's studied a lot is alternate day fasting, which they allude to here. And the more popular one, which I would like to see more studies on, is 16-8. So a lot of people get into that. So then they ask here, what's the evidence for extending life with intermittent fasting? And so, yeah, we've seen some evidence that it may improve lifespan. And it says here primarily through decreasing nutrient sensing pathways. Yeah, we don't really need to get into this. I think the takeaway for me is that these studies are actually done on lab animals, on mice, not in humans. And so we don't really know that for sure, that fasting will extend our life. But I think the bigger question is, does it give us a more fulfilling life? So if I'm starving myself, if I'm miserable, I have no energy, then that's just not a fun way to live. So I hope you enjoyed this. So the takeaway here is that this study, we didn't see a lot. And I think what was super interesting was to see that just how much we're eating. And so in that context, I actually have a course coming up. I'm going to give out some freebies, and we're going to dive into not fasting like I usually do, but we're going to get into nutrition, the food you eat, and we're going to come up with a simple 7-day meal plan for lifelong weight loss. So if you're interested in that, keep following, send me a message, and I can give you a link. I can give you access to perhaps a free membership for that course.